Unfortunately, I wasn't here for the last presentation, so I didn't really know how my teammates were doing their presentation. So for me, I'm just gonna try to talk from the very beginning of how this game came to be what it is right now. So at the very beginning of the summer, we basically started our Europe with group brainstorming. And during that brainstorming, we came up with like different problems that we think we saw in our education that we want to try to like decrease. And 3 of us, including me, chose the problem of implicit bias. Unfortunately, that didn't really come through as one very big project, because as we like try to research on the topic, this is kind of what we got. Like we got a lot of information, like all of them have very different opinions, and there's like not a certain way that we can follow kind of. So, well, our big project kind of go down. I was thinking maybe like in all of this, there's like a little thing about implicit bias that I could do. So that's where I came up with the idea of the name game. It's basically a dot in all the implicit bias realm that we found. So basically we were trying to like conquer the big problem of implicit bias, but then I just figured sometimes when you enter a classroom, it's like really important that your teacher know who you are, especially when you come from like a different background and you have a different name. And sometimes your teacher may have a hard time pronouncing your name, and sometimes because your name are different, you may get less chance of being called out or like less attention because the teacher's like, I don't really know how to pronounce your name, so I'll just try to avoid. Even that's unconscious, but that can do a lot to the students. So that's the question, the little dot that I tried to do in the rest of the Europe. And once that I know what question that I want to conquer, I was thinking what is like one way that can help teacher candidates to practice to remember people. So I was reading some articles, and then I found out they say like exposure to different names can help people a lot. So basically it's the idea of sometimes it's like easier for us to remember names like Amy or like Mary because they're more common to us, that we have a lot of exposure to them. But for some other names like my name, it's harder to remember because it's kind of like strange and less familiar. I kind of wanted to test whether this like exposure thing really works. So I did a test with my fellow Europeans and Emily. I prepared 5 sheets. And as you can see, these 2 kind of go together. These 2 go together. What I did is I asked people to try to go through this list, remember these people, they're all celebrities from different countries. Try to remember their face with their name, and then I timed them to do that. Once they say they're finished, I give them this sheet to ask them to match the name with the face again, and see how many names and face people can match correctly, and also how much time they need to do that. So after the first set of sheet, I asked them to read the third sheet, which is basically information about the countries or the naming conventions where all these people come from. After finish reading this info, they go to another set of tasks that are similar to this. And then I do the same thing of timing them, how much time they need to remember all these people, and then how many correct names they can match. And then also, just to control the difficulty of these 2 sheets are now very different that cause the different result. I ask some people to read this 2 sheets first, and some people to read this 2 sheets first. So I feel like the names, like the difficulty of the names shouldn't be a factor in the result. And this is the result that I got. I have very few participants, so the data is probably not a very concrete result. It's not scientifically like valid or something, but I was just like, I was trying to find some proof that this may actually work. So it shows that the time that is used to study the study sheet to remember the people actually goes down after they read the information sheet. And then the memorization score, so basically how correct you are with matching the face and the names goes up. And also I was also asking people just based on the name and the face to identify where the person comes from, like which region the person comes from. And that score goes down. So people were like, after reading the information, they were like less certain where those people come from. So So after the test, I'm like, okay, I want to try to go with this exposure idea to expose people to more diverse cultures and also like different names. So I went through a lot of iterations. At the very beginning, my cards kind of looked like this. They're just like on the back of the index card. And then developed little bit here, and this is like the final part. And there are like a lot of things in between this, but because I was like reusing some of the materials, I didn't really get a picture of them. And below are like all of the changes that was made. And here is the game as it is right now, and I'll just like explain a little bit what this game really is. So in this game, you got some cards like this, also shown in the picture, and then each player gets 4 cards, and they're trying to remember the people on the card, also their names, and also their information at the bottom of the card that shows where the person comes from. And then during the play test, we were like, these are really like uncommon names, so sometimes we don't know how to pronounce them, and I want to learn that because it's really important to learn how to pronounce it well. So the cards themselves are NFC cards, and if you have an Android phone or like an iPhone that supports NFC, you can just type the card to your phone. And then you can just play the sound. So like all of us in the card, this is Emily's name. So we can like learn how to pronounce these names while we're playing the game. And then every player goes in turn, and then when they play, they're trying to introduce their student to everybody else, and people will use that opportunity to remember the student as well. And you can either choose to just place the student down, or choose to claim that this student is similar to one of the other students that have already been placed down. And if you choose to claim similarity, other people vote, and if people think it's a valid similarity, you can get all the cards that are in between. And your goal in this game is basically to win as many students as possible. And if you lose all your students, the game is over for you, you lose. So basically, when people are playing, they need to cover all the information up to the face. So this is what player will see during the game. So your goal is really just trying to remember their name, their information, and trying to see whether there are similarities between the information that you remembered. And that's like how you win the game, basically. So people are just really trying to practice remembering these people. And then there are like added features to the game as well. One feedback that I got in the playtest is also just because all the information is kind of about the country, it's less about the student. That's not like really a real world scenario where you're just trying to like really learn a student. So we have like little add-on fun facts that you can draw every turn and just add it to the student. So for example, this one says, my parents gave me an English name instead of the Spanish one to make my life easier. And you can just like stick it on here, and they're like more, you can also create your own fun facts. And these fun facts will just stick with the student for the entire game. You can also just use the fun facts to create similarity between students to claim that they're similar as well. And then there are also transformer cards in the deck. The transformer cards include information about memory tricks. So this one, it says like see the spelling visually in your mind, and that helps you to remember a person's name. So if you get a transformer card, you can claim this card is similar to any other card in the deck, and you can just win the cards. And you also practice the tricks. That's all the like little features of the game. And when it comes to game objective, when I first made the game, I was just like, let's expose players to different cultures, to different names, so they get more familiarity, so they can probably get better afterwards when they're trying to remember their real students' names. But after the game develops, I feel like it probably can help the purpose of aligning on like 4 levels, and these are the 4 things. I think the main thing is still like the first 2. And I would just want to talk about like future possible developments for a little bit. So the first one that is really important, I got this feedback multiple times that people are just like, if I can do this with my real students in the classroom, it would be really great. Like it can be a first class activity where I ask all my students to draw their faces and like read their name, pronounce their name, and then make them into cards, and like we can play the game together. So I feel like one development that can be done is like how to make a toolkit that teacher can just use to make their real student cards. That's like, if I have more time, that would be my next step. And also with this pronouncing thing, the phone is kind of like, using the phone to scan the NFC card is kind of like a plan B. Initially, I like spent a lot of time building one like Arduino machine that basically when you tap it, you just pronounce it automatically. I feel like that will like make this game more useful because I want the game to remain like a tabletop game, and like the fact that there's just one piece of the game that can pronounce it just makes it feel better. And also I feel like it will be more useful in the classroom if cell phone is not there. So the Arduino is definitely something that if I have more time, I want to finish. And the last thing is, for this game right now, once you claim similarity, you cannot repeat the reasoning that you use. And that's like the one set of rules that is played. But during the development, we talk about like different sets of rules. We talk about maybe we can just give one set of rules that only allow people to find similarity between geography, or some other set of rules that only allow people to find similarity between fun facts. So like really individualized similarities. So that's something that I want to do with the game as well, just create like different modes of the game that people can play rather than just one single mode. And like my final words are about this summer Europe in general. It has been like a really supportive environment, and these are not all the people who helped a lot like during this whole process. But yeah, like, here are you guys. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
Liza, do you want to take any questions or
We decided to take questions
at the very end? So this artwork is by Lizao and represents all of the 7, or plus me, 8 members of the Learning Science Playground team. But surely if she could capture everyone who helped on this project, there would be many, many more faces on the screen. But get to know Lizao. She's a Wellesley student. This is her second CMS Europe at MIT. So we hope that may continue, that you'll still be around because it's been a great summer work. We'll see her again to present more on the artwork for this project. So we'll let these folks get their food. Before
The theme of the week.
Yeah, the NFC reader is like pizza.
What?
So like
No, why they were delayed. There's a reason why they were delayed. I was delayed earlier for the same reason.
like I just
Discussion. Like to talk. We have colleagues where the kind that you need to just make sure that if you're leaving somewhere quickly, you should probably not start a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, oh.
Yeah.
yeah, that seems really light.
Yeah. Good. Sorry. You got it. You need to order the right amount.
And we have the right amount of guests. So is this anyone's first visit to anything related to the Learning Science Playground? Liz, do you have background on the sort of scope of the whole summer?
I do not feel like I have background in the scope of the whole summer.
We've introduced it piece by piece, but these 7 students started with us on June 11th, bringing their own game design skills, their own product design skills, their own understanding of learning sciences, a lot which came from their personal experience. So we kind of drew on all of that expertise to create this this very much student-driven process of design where this could have been just a single game that was built by all 7 students as collaboratively as a group. And they did certainly start out in small teams, but as you've seen from these presentations, our students have really pursued topics individually and built their own games just with the support and help from all of the peers in the room. And we had more than just the 7 year-ups from TSL there. We were also co-living with the 9 Game Lab year-ups who were doing games and puzzles of various sorts that you saw. So this was the swap that the Game Lab gives us space, and we bring them play testing, and it made for a really awesome summer. You guys feeling ready?
Yeah.
So Ozan is another student who came to us from another school, from the New College of Florida. And so he's definitely traveled the longest to be with us, furthest to be with us this summer.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
So Ozan studies computer science, and you will see what he developed as part of his expertise for this project. And Brianna, many of you know, was a year up this past spring with TSL and was the designer on this project that Ozan and Brianna developed together. You might be able to click now if you've double clicked on that already. Yep.
Oh my, okay. Okay. Hello, I'm Brianna, and this is Ozan, and we're going to talk about our game called Beat It.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Okay, so like many of the other projects, we started out with a problem we wanted to solve. Our problem was it's hard to give good responses, feedback, and reactions without the full knowledge of the situation. However, there will be many times where a teacher will not have the full context of the situation in those cases, and the teacher will need to react the best they can. This is to say it's really hard to give a good response in the moment, especially if you don't have any information on whether or not the person was doing it as a joke, whether or not the person was doing it just to be actually want to learn something or one of those. So our solution was practice and be better prepared in choosing their reactions and learn more about their other people's reactions to the same situations.
More like a peer-to-peer learning approach.
So for a game, our first game that we tried to dealt with this is Pay Attention, and that was going to focus on giving nonverbal feedback, because one of the things that we were really interested in is the fact that, in my experience, there was a teacher who yelled at me, and that really shut me down in the classroom. So we wanted to practice giving nonverbal feedback. And then the results, there were many issues in the game such that it focused really much on anything that wasn't you on task is you being distracted. And we didn't really want that to be the core thing that you have to get from the game. So we scrapped the idea and we looked more broadly at what is giving good responses, how do you actually measure, how do you actually practice giving good responses. So some examples we took from was a speech by Deborah Ball that showed us an example of a teacher didn't shut down a student. They were actually had a lot of knowledge on the concept and understand that the student wanted to learn. The student actually asked a good question and not her reaction to that student was very intuitive and very, well, it wasn't intuitive, but it was very intelligent and very good for the student. Another example was, so we played Awkward Moments as a group for the implicit bias team, but me and Ozan got something from that, which helped us in articulating what we wanted, which is to practice giving responses and practice reactions. And we all focused on the